is Joe Perry, and today I'll be sharing with you my case study for Surf Alert. This is a mobile app that I made native versions for both Android and iOS. This case study is on my website, jperrydesign.com, if you'd like to check it out for yourself. Some of the deliverables for this project were the UI, the UX flow, and prototype, and the two different deliverables for the two different platforms, as you can see here, one for iOS and one for Android. The main challenge was to provide surf forecasts that were relevant to the user, and the goal was to provide the enthusiastic user with the functionality to set up customizable forecast alerts that they deem relevant and give them the control to set those up. Here's a little bit about my design process. And here are some of the key features that I deemed relevant. Users will be able to locate surf reports based on search criteria or location. So they could either put in their location manually or by area code, or they can allow share location with the app. Users will be able to post comments and media in a specific forum for each spot. Users will have the option of setting up a profile to save favorite locations and to enrich their presence on the spot-specific forums. And the users will have the option to set up customizable push notifications when their favorite spots are firing. And as you can see here, this is the user flow and some of the things we talked about as far as, posting spot-specific forum content and push notification setup for customized push notifications. I also did some competitive research on some of the big sites in the space. Magic Seaweed and Surfline are well-known surf forecast apps. Epic is another one, not so well-known, but I thought they did a really good job with their UI, so I thought I would include that in this screen. Some of the research findings that I found were that I felt that some of the other sites were a little disjointed and the information could be consolidated a little bit better. So I thought an elegant solution for that would be a 3-tab system where we have an overview, a forecast, and a chat forum for specific spots, as you can see in my mid-fidelity wireframes here. Once we got to the high-fidelity wireframes, they really started to come to life. The overview, as mentioned before, is kind of just, an executive summary of the spot. Like what is recommended surfboard length for that spot, or what's the recommended attire, or just what does the surf look like at a glance. Now, for those looking for a little bit more in-depth information, maybe you need to know the swell direction and the wind direction. You want to know what the tide is at a certain time, or maybe a little bit more of an extended forecast. Well, then there's a forecast tab to help you out with those things. And as you can see, the Epic app above from the competitive analysis had an influence on this particular screen. And then finally, the forum screen, spot-specific chats for specific things that are tied to that spot, whether it be GoPro footage, or maybe you just want to confirm that the conditions were as good as advertised, or maybe they weren't. Then we got into the user testing of the app. Things like the aesthetic of the design elements that are being used on the screens. In this particular case, these bars here were causing a little bit of a hiccup in my hierarchy, so I decided to remove them based on user feedback. Another issue we ran into was just trying to get the app a little bit more consistent as far as the patterns that I'm using. Originally, for the login and the sign up, it was kind of like a radio button approach, but in the notification screen, I used more of a toggle style button. So I thought I'd go ahead and carry that over to the login and sign up pages as well, as you can see here on a further revision. This was another aesthetic change. The logo was not replicating well at smaller sizes. It almost looks like a hurricane alert. So we went ahead and changed the pin and the corresponding icon on the nav bar. And I went ahead and brightened up the other icons on the nav bar, even though they're not in use. We want to be able to show the users what other options are available to them. This was just a case of bumping up the weight on the fonts here to make them a little bit more readable, a little bit easier on the eye. And here we have some of the final screens. Now, when building an app for multiple platforms, for me it required refreshing myself on all things that are platform specific. In this project, that meant brushing up on iOS patterns and material design. As you can see below, the differences like native screen resolution and design patterns must be considered to ensure the user has recognizable, intuitive patterns that they frequently use in their apps. For example, making use of the floating action button and the navigation drawer on the Android, as you can see here, makes a iOS user feel right at home, while back buttons in the UI and access to your settings in the bottom tab is more a norm in the iOS interface, as you can see here with the back buttons and menu navigation here. There's also times when you want to break away from your native app's recommendations as well. For example, using elements from my style guide, such as the font family for both platforms, gives the visual brand a consistency on either platform that it wouldn't have otherwise. And that's my app. I hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at my case study as much as I enjoyed making the app.